Because look at talaq. Look at the case that Imam Muwafiquddin rahimahullah brought, where a man says, I didn't give talaq to my wife. And a woman says, he did. And I have also received my monthly cycle today. Imam Muwafiquddin says, what is the ruling that we give in this case? The ruling falls with the woman, because she knows best her physical condition and what would be said. So the ruling falls with the woman. We accept her witness in this case. Why? Because we cannot and we wouldn't think of trying to say, well, what's your proof that your monthly cycle has happened, and actually physically try. We wouldn't seek to do that, because that could lead to embarrassment, shame. A woman would not generally allow you to check her to be sure of that. A woman wouldn't allow that. So we have to take her word on that and assume that she's telling the truth. And number two, talaq, because most of the time women know the conditions of what talaq means, to dissolve, to break that which Allah has binded. Most women, they wouldn't want to do that. So our assumption is, if a man says, I didn't do that, and a woman says, yes, he did, then we assume the truthfulness of the woman. And if she says, I've received my cycle, the man says, oh no, that's impossible. Who are we going to believe? Obviously, we're going to believe the man, aren't we? We're going to believe the woman, aren't we? Because the man says, oh no, she didn't. That's ridiculous. We have to believe the woman. So you must understand, when people bring you to this ayah, because they will, you'll be in college, you'll be in university, you'll be minding your own business, and there'll be the angry professor or the twice divorced English teacher, or whatever the case is. And they're going to bring this ayah to you. Look at this. You see, aren't you glad you're in a democratic society? Yes, where in 3/4 of rape cases, the man is only punished with less than a year in jail. Yeah, that makes sense. But we can't even properly put them on television. Where cases of rape, the woman still has issues that she has to deal with, and they still don't properly prosecute because of the leniency on rape. Because there's this attitude in this society that she had it coming. And when you're on the stand, they're asking you, what were you wearing? What on earth does that have to do with whether I was wearing a metal chainmail? That's got nothing to do with rape. That's got nothing to do with rape. If you look at most of the rape cases, do studies on these rape cases, and find out that the great majority of women that were raped were not wearing provocative outfits or anything like that. It's got nothing to do with even provocation. So the next time they ask on these issues, well, what about 2 female witnesses? You say, well, read the whole ayah 282, read the whole thing. And then you bring them these other cases regarding divorce. You read in these other cases where there's female judges. You bring in these other cases where there's these other things. And say, name me 6 female judges in UK courts or US courts. With the exception of Roseburg and a few others, name me 6 Supreme Court judges. Name me 1 female president of the United States. Name me 3 female prime ministers. Oh, there aren't any? Strange. Living in a democratic society, aren't we? This is the thing. Challenge them. Because you're being challenged on this. Challenge them. Because we have a big history. A big, big history. And there's a thick book called As-Suhub Al-Wabila ala Dara'ih Al-Hanabila. And it's a book on judges and scholars. And a big section of the 3rd volume just covers female judges. That's all it does. The low-hanging clouds, the Suhub al-Wabila, it just covers female judges. I dare them to produce 100 female judges. Any of them, all together, these courts. They can't. Now, Imam Ibn Al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, he then says after this, quote, and when it says, and let not the witnesses abstain from what they've been told to do, this is a great thing indeed. Let not the witnesses abstain from what they've been commanded. Let them not abstain from writing down what they've been told to write, and establishing and dispensing the rights, as has been mentioned by the rulers and the judges, after their witness has been clearly confirmed. Let them not shy away from or duck away from those rulings. And this has been mentioned by Ibn Abbas, Atiyah, Qatada, Al-Rabi', Tawus, Sa'id ibn Jubayr, Mujahid, Ikrimah, Ata, Al-Sha'bi, Abu Majlis, Ad-Dahhak ibn Zayd, and also Imam Ahmed in one ruling. Let them fulfill the rights that have been mentioned. Let them do as they've been commanded. It's not permissible for a witness being told, you must bear witness, that he then refuses when he's called to bear witness. As far as if he's under hardship or in danger, then that is different. But it is fard kifaya to write down a history of debts and logging them. And it's not permissible that all the people should be kept from writing down the debts. They have to write them down. Now when Allah says, and do not abstain or write down a little or a lot, write down the debt as it actually is. And write down the ending time or the due date of when that debt is to be fulfilled. For that is the most noble in front of Allah and the most noble testimony. Because writing down debts and all that what is known is the truest and best thing towards taqwa. And people don't have any doubts when the debt has been written down. There are no doubts in their mind. The wealth is protected. Now, if you do not allow the writing down of debts, or you do not allow them to be kept track of, what will occur is there will be the case in which there will be no transactions taking place in your society because the debt will be laden. And every single one will have transactions that they suffer from, and there'll be no limit to the end of transactions, and debt will become paramount. Now, in cases where there's hand-to-hand transactions that happen immediately, writing is not required. But let the people bear witness in any event. Meaning, if it's a direct transaction that happens immediately, it is still praiseworthy to write it down, to have receipt of this transaction. Now, this ayah clearly lays down the ruling that to establish debt, it should be written down, that there should be witnesses in transactions and debts. Now, the scholars differ. Is this wajib or is it praiseworthy? The vast majority say that writing down debts, having witnesses for them, that this is praiseworthy. And that it is a ruling that is valid. This is muhkam, decisive. However, another group of people hold the position that it is compulsory to write down debts and witnessing. Ibn Umar, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, Mujahid, Ibn Sirin, Ata, Ad-Dahhak, Abu Qilaba, Al-Hakam, Ibn Zayd. All of these have that ruling. But there is another dispute on whether the hukam mentioned in this ayah is muhkam or whether it was abrogated by another ayah. The vast majority hold the position that this ayah's ruling has not been abrogated. Only some say that it's abrogated by another ayah, which we will be coming to shortly. Few people would say that this ayah is abrogated. But instead, we remember where Allah the Exalted has told us. وَإِن كُنتُمْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ وَلَمْ تَجِدُوا كَاتِبًا فَرِهَانٌ مَقْبُوضَةٌ فَإِنْ أَمِنَ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا فَلْيُؤَدِّ الَّذِي اؤْتُمِنَ أَمَانَتَهُ وَلْيَتَّقِ اللَّهَ رَبَّهُ وَلَا تَكْتُمُوا الشَّهَادَةَ وَمَنْ يَكْتُمْهَا فَإِنَّهُ آثِمٌ قَلْبُهُ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ عَلِيمٌ. And if you are on a journey and you do not find a scribe, then pledge something as security and deliver its possession. If any one of you, while contracting or conducting any transaction, entrusts the other, let the one who is entrusted discharge his trust. Let him fear Allah, who is his Lord, and do not conceal the testimony. He who withholds it has surely done something astray, and Allah is aware of all that you do. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 283. So it is seen by some that this ayah abrogates the ruling that was before regarding writing down debts and reducing them to witnesses. So the ayah to them remains praiseworthy, but its wujub, its compulsoriness has been abrogated because you are entrusting those who are in charge of the financial structures to write down those matters. Now, when discussing this, it's no harm that one who is busy or engaged in other activities entrusts others to keep track of these transactions, as is the state of Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Ikrimah, and As-Sudai, Al-Rabi' ibn Anas, Al-Farra, Muqatil, and others. So Al-Rabi' as mentioned, so if one of them would come to the writer and say, write for me this debt, then he says, I'm busy. And then he says, but you've been commanded to write down the debts that are necessary to be written. This is harming him. He should not abandon this matter, but he should write down these debts. And likewise, the witness should not be in a situation where he harms those that require his witnessing. So, the writer, the scribe, must not harm the one who he writes for. Because if he writes other than that which he's been told to do, he harms them. And the witness shouldn't claim witness of things that he hasn't seen. And this is the statement of Al-Hasan, Tawus, Qatada ibn Da'imah, Ibn Zayd, and also Ibn Qutaybah and Az-Zujaj. It is also stated that, and if the person did not do this, then this is fusuq indeed. They have done great fusuq, great rebellion. Now, the one who's called to write and he doesn't write, this one has done fusuq. But the one that's called to write and he writes down, or the one who's called to write and he's busy, then this one is not called a fasiq, because indeed he is engaged in other activities. If the one who's been called to witness is a fasiq and we can't take his witness, then this one's not been called to witness, and we wouldn't call such a one to witness. Indeed, whoever corrupts what he's been told to write or lies in that which he's witnessed is a fasiq. And this is harm that gets done to people, and it also harms the person who does so, for they shall bear and incur the sin of what they have done. Now Allah says, and if you are on a journey, meaning if you set out for a journey, and you don't have a scribe or witnesses, then what do? Well, then you entrust someone to write down this matter, and someone acts as a trustee. So, someone who's acting as a trustee is given this burden, and they must fulfill it. If one of you is entrusted this debt, because he is the holder of this debt, is a serious trust, and he must keep it, because he's holding on to this without any writing, without any witnesses, without any deposit. He's holding this debt and he knows that it must be fulfilled. This person should not fail or flag in his duties and his rights. As Sudai mentioned from his sheikhs, that let the person not become a sinner in his heart and deny that which he has been given as a duty. Al-Qadir Ya'ala has said that this is called a sin that comes to the heart because the sinning person has denied a covenant that he made by his heart, and he's concealed the witness that he was given, and he has refused to discharge his duty, and by doing so he has harmed himself and harmed others. Allah the Exalted has said, لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. Allah possesses all that's in the skies and the earth. And if you should conceal, if you should bring forward what is in yourselves, or you conceal it, Allah will certainly call you to task for it. Indeed, He forgives who He wills and He punishes who He wills, and Allah has power over everything. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 284. So if you should bring forward what's in yourselves or conceal it, Allah will reckon you for it. Meaning, all actions that you do, whether they're actions of the heart, what you speak, what you do, this you can be reckoned for or taken to task for. And as far as what you conceal in yourself, the ulama differ in the intent of what is meant in this ayah by concealing something in yourself. One position is that it is all things that are concealed within yourself, all thoughts that come to your mind, all things that you settle yourself upon. And this is the position of the vast majority. Now, this particular ayah, does it mean that you will be taken to task and asked everything you've ever thought? Every slight idea that's ever come to your head? Every thought you've ever been asked? Does this ayah therefore mean that? Or has it been abrogated? There are two rulings on this. One is that this statement was abrogated by another statement that Allah made. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not hold the soul responsible except for what it bears. Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah, ayat 286. Now this is the ruling and understanding of Ibn Mas'ud, Abu Hurairah, Ibn Abbas, Al-Hasan Al-Basri, Al-Sha'bi, Ibn Sirin, Sa'ad ibn Jubayr, Qatada ibn Da'ima, Ata, Al-Khurasani, As-Sudai ibn Zayd, and Muqatil. The second position is that it's clearly affirmed that someone will be taken to account for the thoughts they had and secret designs that they had, in a general sense. Now, whoever He, Allah, wills will be taken to task, and He will forgive who He wills. And this has been narrated from Ibn Umar, and also is the preferred ruling of Abu Sulaiman al-Dimashqi and Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la. It's also been stated by Abu Talha from Ibn Abbas that Ibn Abbas said, this ayah has not been abrogated, but Allah, when He gathers the creation, He will say to them, I shall inform you of that which you've concealed in yourselves, what none of my angels know. So as far as the believers, then He will inform them, and He will forgive them for what they had spoken of in themselves. And this is why Allah the Exalted has said, يُحَاسِبُكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهِ, and Allah shall reckon you according to what it is, meaning Allah will inform you of it. As far as the people of shirk and rejecting faith, He will inform them of what's within themselves of their rejecting faith and all these other matters. And Allah says, فَيَغْفِرُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, and He forgives who He wills and He punishes who He wills. So most of these people will receive just this type of reward. Now, this affair has to be made clear that the muhasabah, the reckoning here, is Allah revealing to the slave on the day of resurrection whatever he had in himself in this earthly life, so that he knows that this information wasn't hidden. This information wasn't something forgotten about. No, this ayah is decisive. And the abrogation in this ayah is only on commands and warnings. Now there's a statement of Aisha radiallahu anha, where she said, "Indeed, Allah shall reckon you by what you have. As far as what you concealed, then He will hasten for you the punishment in this life, so that way it's alleviated from you."